In this video, I'm going to go over how to export. And one note is you want to think about the artboard that you're working with. And the artboard is this space around your image, this black line. And we've got a couple of different ways to actually look at the image without this stuff off the edge. And the way we do that is we go to View and Trim View. And now all of those images are still there. All of those objects are still there. But what this is doing is temporarily hiding them. We can also look at it in presentation mode, and this will show it to us full screen, it's big, beautiful, like large area. But to export it, two different ways. One, to just save it. So File, Save. And if it's your first time saving it, you would do Save and you would be able to title it, or Save As. And this comes up with a dialog box, and I'm going to call this donut finished. And if I save it as an AI file, that is an Illustrator native file. Do save. And it's going to come up with this dialog box. You can keep all the defaults the same. If you're working on an earlier version, you may want to consider going back. So Illustrator CC Legacy. But I think for the most part, folks should be working on Illustrator 2020. Then you just say OK. And it's saved. And you'll see if you make a change. So if I come out here and I make a change about something, you will see that this star comes up to let us know this version that we're working on is not saved. Let's go back to Trim View. To save it as a PDF, which is the file type that I asked for submissions, File, Save As, and you can go to Adobe PDF. Now what this does is it's technically still an Illustrator file. You could go in and edit all of the layers if you open it in Illustrator, but it preserves all the vectors inside Illustrator. So when I do save, take a second, and I'll ask, do I want to preserve Illustrator editing capabilities? The answer is yes. Thumbnails, yes. And Acrobat layers from top level layers, yes. And basically, all of this stays the same. And then you just do save PDF. Now, if you want to export as a PNG or JPEG, a PNG allows you to preserve transparency. And this is really great if you're creating something for a website, or you're creating something where you want to have text behind it or the colors behind it. If you just want to have it for Instagram, Facebook, or anything else you're designing for, JPEGs will also work. And so to show you what I mean, I can go to File, Export, and Export As. You have to go to this menu in order to export as a PNG or a JPEG in the easiest way possible. You can do it other ways. And so here, donut finished, PNG, use artboards. You want to make sure this is checked. Otherwise, it will not save it to the artboards. And if you have multiple artboards here, you'll be able to export just a selected amount or just all of them. And you see it shows me a preview, and I could change the resolution here as well in the export window. Say OK. And File, Export, Export As. And I'm going to choose a JPEG. And again, use artboards. And I guess let's do it without artboards just to see what that looks like, see the difference here. And I'm going to say OK. And now if I go to my window here, Illustrator Files. So here's my JPEG. Look at this. You see how it has those edges that are not cut off? And I'd deleted one here by accident just to show you the change. And then we look at the PNG. And that is perfectly cut off. So that's great. And what's interesting as a last moment is what I was saying about transparency. Here, even though this is white, I've just turned off the visibility of the background. Even though this is white, this is empty. So the only thing that Illustrator is doing is saving the objects that are present on the screen. And so if I go to File, Export, Export As, and I do it as a PNG, because this and TIFF files and Illustrator files and Photoshop files all preserve transparency, but the most common one is PNG. And I'm going to say donut finished with. And you see that checkerboard behind it is going to be transparent. Say OK. And then if I was to open this up somewhere, let's see, if I bring this on my desktop, we should see, yep, there we go. You see how this is the thumbnail, but we're seeing that it's transparent behind that image, as opposed to this one, which does not have the transparency behind it. So these are the basics of exporting with Illustrator.